coverage. In today's weather forecast, we'll be talking about a storm outbreak over the next few days into next week that will bring rounds of severe weather across the United States, an extreme heat wave that will build north into the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and potentially the Northeast to round out August. And then we'll do a deeper dive into the Atlantic hurricane season to talk about why we are seeing what we're seeing now and what you can expect going through the rest of the hurricane season across the North Atlantic. But if you're not a new subscriber to the channel, be sure you hit the subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on daily updates on this channel across North America, including southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics. It's also very important to press the thumbs up button as it helps to get all of this weather information out to as many people as possible. I really do truly appreciate it. So going back to yesterday, very busy day here in the books for your Saturday, August 12th. Lots of severe weather here from New England, the Mid-Atlantic, all the way down through the Tennessee Valley and even the southeastern United States. We had 6 reported tornadoes, mostly across Ohio and into West Virginia yesterday. 290 wind reports, 34 hail reports, and we had 330 severe weather reports all told from yesterday. So it was a very busy day that was across portions of the eastern United States. Looking at the infrared satellite imagery here later this morning, right now we are seeing some thunderstorms with some rainfall here from Iowa down through Missouri and into northern Arkansas. That's going to continue to moisten the environment across this region later on today, and we're going to kind of see some active thunderstorms across especially the Missouri Ozarks region and across the western Ohio Valley getting into later today with a low pressure system that is developing, and that's going to swing a cold front east across the United States as we go through early on this week. On Tuesday, that's going to have a cold front move to the eastern seaboard with it as the low pressure system starts to occlude by that Tuesday timeframe. So let's look at the Storm Prediction Center's update here. There is an enhanced risk of severe weather that's a level 3 out of 5 across southeastern Kansas, extreme northeastern Oklahoma, and getting into the Missouri Ozarks region for Joplin, Missouri, the Springfield region, Jefferson City, those areas, and getting into far northern portions of Arkansas. That is an enhanced risk with a slight risk from Amarillo up here to Dodge City, Topeka, the Kansas City region, St. Louis, Paducah, and then over here toward the Nashville region in Middle Tennessee. So a large area of severe later on today, and kind of walking you through the greatest to least expected risk from these storms. We will have the greatest risk of large, very strong winds across this region. We could be seeing wind gusts in excess of 60 to 70 miles per hour across portions of the Amarillo area, Kansas City, Springfield, getting into St. Louis, Paducah, and Nashville later on today, followed by an elevated tornado risk. And this actually extends up into portions of the Omaha region, Des Moines, Sioux Falls, and all the way up into southwestern Minnesota. But the greatest tornado risk is in this brown shaded color from southeastern Kansas through the Missouri Ozarks here. Again, Joplin, Missouri, Springfield, Jefferson City, and just south of the St. Louis region and parts of northeastern Arkansas. And then the least risk that we'll see here today is some hail, probably around quarter to golf ball size here, more isolated than not. So that's what we're seeing here across portions of the lower Missouri Valley today. Let's kind of look at what the radar could look like. So later on this afternoon, we're already seeing some ongoing showers and storms that will persist here through the afternoon hours, more of a scattered coverage of stronger storms. We're watching the cold front though as it intersects this warm, moist, and unstable environment. We're going to see what we call an MCS, a mesoscale convective system, start to develop from the St. Louis region down through the Missouri Ozarks, all the way down here into portions of Oklahoma City, Tulsa. We're going to continue to watch that. The threat here with this is for some very strong damaging winds in excess of 60, 70 miles per hour, some quarter to golf ball size hail, and also the potential for a couple embedded tornadoes, especially even if we can get a discrete storm ahead of the main line as we go into this this evening, and then that's going to continue to rumble its way across the Ohio and Tennessee River Valley into your early Monday morning to start the work week on August 14th, mainly bringing a threat for some ongoing damaging winds, but the heavy rainfall threat is going to be the most prominent. Lots of lightning here as we have a lot of heat energy to the south. Remember, those temperatures are into the hundreds, so these are going to be highly electrified storms. Lots of cloud to ground lightning out there into your early Monday morning. Then as we go into Monday, this is going to shift further off to the east. We have a slight risk of severe weather across the mid-Atlantic here to portions of Pittsburgh, Baltimore, D.C., down here toward the Roanoke, Richmond area, Norfolk, and then getting back to the west here. Again, areas that saw severe weather yesterday, back in the bullseye for Monday. We have Charleston, West Virginia, Lexington, Kentucky, the Cincinnati region, maybe again into Nashville as well on Monday. And then we do have a little bit of an elevated tornado risk across the mid-Atlantic here, potentially seeing an isolated tornado or two. Not a total tornado outbreak by any means, but a couple of tornadoes will be possible here. And then going into Tuesday, like we showed you, the cold front did shift off to the East Coast, bringing a slight risk for severe weather from Norfolk up toward D.C. and into southern New Jersey there. And we could even see a couple stronger storms getting into the New York City area, Long Island, as we go into the day on Tuesday. Now let's kind of zoom back out and show you the weather pattern today here and all the heat out there. You can see that we have a couple high pressure systems we're keeping an eye on. The main high pressure system is across the deep south from Texas down through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. It's going to be bringing some very strong heat down here like it has been. But we also have another high-pressure system across Washington State, Oregon, and even southern British Columbia and southwestern Canada today. And these are going to join forces as we go into early on this week on Tuesday, August 15th, in one big high-pressure system across the Four Corners region. And it's going to heat up, and it's going to heat up big time across the western United States. So let's look at the current heat headlines across the United States now. We do have ongoing heat advisories in the orange. The purple shaded colors, those are excessive heat warnings, and still those red flag warnings for central and northwest Texas here, getting into south central Texas. That is because we have very dry soil, we have some gusty winds, and it's very hot out there, so easily we could see wildfire conditions across that region. So make sure to stay tuned about that. No open burning across that region, and more heat headlines across the Pacific Northwest, Washington State, northern Idaho, Oregon, and into northern California, even central California, seeing some heat advisories, excessive heat warnings out there, excessive heat watches, very nasty conditions across the Pacific Northwest with the heat out there. So let's look at today's high temperatures. Very nice temperatures across the northern United States, the Dakotas, Minnesota. We're into the 60s and low 70s this afternoon. Get outside and enjoy it if you can dodge the raindrops across some of these areas, but it's all about the heat further to the south. 109 in Wichita Falls this afternoon, 106 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, 104 in Shreveport, and also 104 over in the Jackson, Mississippi region. But look at the west and the Pacific Northwest. We're into the 90s and triple digits all the way up into Washington State, western Oregon especially, getting through the Sacramento Valley there into California up to 110 in some areas. Then as we go into Monday, it's really heating up across portions of the Pacific Northwest, whereas we have a cold front that will be dropping across portions of the southern plains. That could drop us into the low 90s for highs tomorrow. Nice welcome sight there for Wichita Falls, approaching the DFW area. And then as we go into Tuesday, that 90-degree line actually goes all the way south into central Texas. So I know it's a modest cool down, but any silver lining to the extreme heat is some good news out here. And we'll be dropping to 95, 96 degrees in DFW as we go into Tuesday. Same thing up there into Wichita Falls, and mid-80s from Oklahoma City to Tulsa as we go into Tuesday as well. But look where all the heat goes. It goes to the west and it goes across the Pacific Northwest here. Those areas are going to really be heating up in a big way. Montana, Idaho, Washington State, Oregon, California, Nevada, Utah. A lot of these areas will be well into the 90s, if not well into the triple digits to start this week. Then we're watching our next strong storm system starting to take shape by Tuesday into Wednesday timeframe across southern Canadian prairies here, across Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba. And this is going to swing a trough across portions of the Great Lakes Lakes region and start to turn negatively tilted as we go into Thursday, August 17th, and then start to move off into the northeast as a negative tilt trough on Friday, August 18th. This is going to be our next big weather maker as we have a slight risk for severe weather. Again, this was posted yesterday on day 5. This is day 4 now, and we have a slight risk across most of Minnesota, extreme northwest Wisconsin, and into the eastern Dakotas region. And I do feel this could be intensifying potentially to an enhanced risk as we do get closer to this day, because we do have a broken line of some supercell thunderstorms that will be breaking out up here further to the north. Areas that haven't seen a lot of severe weather this season across portions of the upper Midwest, northwest Wisconsin, the western UP of Michigan, getting through Minnesota and the eastern Dakotas. That says a 984 millibar low really tightly gets wound up there into western Ontario. That shifts east with the cold front as we go into Thursday. Possibly some marginally strong to severe storms from portions of lower Michigan down through northern Indiana and eastern Illinois on Thursday. We'll keep an eye out for, and then mainly just turning to a heavy rain event, unfortunately, again for the Northeast as we go into Friday. So a very active period through the next 7 days, and here's the next 7 days worth of rainfall. So this is your total rainfall accumulation today through next Sunday on August 20th, and you can see where the heaviest rainfall will be laying out across portions of the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and picking up again in the Northeast. Florida, though, cannot get any relief from the rainfall. Very busy down here as well. The eastern Carolinas there, getting into eastern Virginia, seeing lots of rainfall, several inches over the next few days. But you can see where the have-nots are, where we have a lot of the extreme heat building. Texas, southern Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, parts of the Central Plains, and then especially the West Coast. We're not really going to see much in the way of relief from rainfall perspective over the next 7 days, as it is bone dry for most of these areas. And looking at the long-range pattern, going through the end of August here, this is August 20th through the 26th time frame, there are signs that we're going to see a pretty potent heat wave start to move further to the north, or at least expand further north into the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and parts of the Northeast getting into late August. And this is also kind of operated on very highly from the ensemble models, are really showing this very nicely. The EPS ensemble, the European guidance, is showing the high pressure ridge centered across the center of the country, the eastern 2/3, late August. The GEFS ensemble guidance, the American guidance, is also showing it, and the GEPS ensemble guidance, the Canadian guidance, is also showing it as well. So very heavily reliant on the ensembles right now, and they are also showing a very bullish heat wave across the eastern 2/3 of the country. So we'll keep an eye on that. Looking, however, at the active storm track for late August. So we know how it's active across the upper Midwest and the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, all those areas here right now. The jet stream is going to lift further to the north and amplify across portions of southern Canada as we go into late August. So all the active weather is going to be across the west and into southern and southeastern Canada, as the eastern 2/3 will bake under the heat as we go into late August. And you can see the pattern flip-flop as we see it now, below normal precipitation across the heartland of the country and east, mainly east of the Rockies, whereas along and west of the Rocky Mountains, especially up here where it's been real dry in the Pacific Northwest, we're going to see likely above average precipitation from August 20th through the 26th timeframe. So that's some good news there. Turning to the full tropical weather update, a lot to talk about and unpack here. We do have a tropical storm in the eastern Pacific with Tropical Storm Fernanda that has formed. That's going to be pushing away from North America, but you can see it on the infrared satellite imagery right here, and that's going to be pushing westbound as a hurricane as we go into later on this evening, getting into Category 1 strength and maintaining hurricane status through at least Wednesday morning, and then dropping back to tropical storm status. But that's going to be moving away from North America. Our next area of interest is near the coast of Mexico, and this needs to be watched very closely. This has a 90% chance of development, almost a near certainty here of development over the next 7 days, and you can see that very big tropical blob of moisture and convection here across the eastern Pacific, right west of the Central Americas. And that's going to be moving northwestbound toward the Baja of California over the next several days. So let's track that here. This is the European forecast model on Wednesday. This is the middle of the week on August 16th. It is developing very quickly, a tropical depression at a 1006 millibar low here. Very quickly gets into tropical storm, if not low-end hurricane strength by Friday, August 18th. Very close to the east coast or the west coast there of Mexico, and then moving further off to the north and west. Now, the European model has it down to a 982 millibar low, well away from the Baja of California on Sunday, August 20th. Where in comparison, the GFS model is much stronger, and it also is a lot closer of a solution to the Baja of California, which would have more major and direct impacts as we go towards next weekend. So this really does need to be watched as we get closer. And oh yeah, if that's not enough, there's another low pressure system that will be crossing in the following week that could take a near similar path as well. So we need to keep an eye on this. Sea surface temperatures, this is in degrees Celsius, very warm across the eastern Pacific. We have very low, if not any, we don't have any shear really across this region. So storms are going to take off. They're going to become hurricanes. They could become major hurricanes as we go here into late August. Turning to the North Atlantic, this is something I wanted to talk about with you. No new tropical cyclones expected over the next 7 days. That is confirmed here. This is the graphic from the National Hurricane Center. And you do see the infrared satellite imagery across the North Atlantic. Very quiet. We don't have much going on here. A very weak tropical wave moving off of Africa, and again, it gets sheared off. We don't have a lot of activity as it moves closer toward the Caribbean. You can see here with El Nino, it continues to intensify across portions of the equatorial Pacific. You can see the warmer blobs here. That is a classic El Nino signature. Anybody who knows that, La Nina is cooler, so it would have blue blobs. We have orange. That means an El Nino is in full force here as we go into late summer. And it doesn't really matter if we have an El Nino or not. Usually El Nino conditions lead to lower than average hurricanes and named storms across the North Atlantic. But I do think as we go deeper into the season, it really doesn't matter if we have an El Nino or not. When you see water temperatures like this in the North Atlantic, in the Caribbean, and especially in the Gulf, it really doesn't matter. I mean, folks, look at these temperatures. I know this is in degrees Celsius, but 32 degrees, 33 degrees Celsius, widespread like this across the Gulf, the Western Caribbean, the Western Atlantic is very unprecedented. It has never happened before, and if it has, then I've missed it because it is very, very warm across this region. And we just have a lot of shear. That is our saving grace right now across the North Atlantic. We have a lot of shear here across the MDR region, the main development region. That's why every tropical wave that moves off the coast of Africa just falls apart. And if it does survive the MDR, it just gets sheared off in the Caribbean anyway. It doesn't even get close to the United States. Climatology suggests as we go into portions of late August and especially early and especially even more so into mid-September, that means the tropical storm and hurricane, major hurricane season, stuff like that is going to really start to ramp up. We're climbing the ladder right now toward the peak of hurricane season as we know it towards the middle of September. And this is concerning when I just showed you all those water temperatures. And looking back at Hurricane Laura moved through August 20th through the 29th across portions of the North Caribbean toward the Greater Antilles. Did have some land interaction, but once it got over the Gulf was very warm that year, and it rapidly intensified and moved over portions of Lake Charles, Louisiana, and up through portions of Louisiana there. That was back in the very busy season of 2020. Looking back just recently, this was just last year. This was Hurricane Ian from September 23rd through the 30th here a month later. And you do see it moved through the Caribbean here. It kind of recurved back up through western Cuba, had some land interaction, but that brief period of water temperatures that are very warm, just a brief 36, 48-hour period, whatever it may be, from Hurricane Ian moving from Cuba to western and southwestern Florida and then back across the open waters waters of the western Atlantic and into the Carolinas was just enough for it to gain a lot of strength to become a hurricane at the very least. So it doesn't take a lot of residence time, is what I'm saying, over the warm waters to make a major hurricane. And that's why I'm so concerned about this upcoming hurricane season still for the Atlantic. We still have another several months to go before this hurricane season is a wrap. So we need to continue to watch it across this region as we go forward. So I will keep you updated on that. But before the hurricane season does get underway, make sure you are prepared. Develop an evacuation plan. Assemble disaster supplies such as food, water, batteries, chargers, a radio, stuff like that. And just make sure you have an insurance plan as well, just in case damage does occur during these hurricanes. And just strengthen your home as well. If you don't have a well-built home, make sure it is well-built enough to where it can withstand hurricane force winds and stuff like that across those areas. So just make sure you have all of those things prepared before this upcoming hurricane season, and you'll help to stay safe as we get closer toward that time frame. Well, make sure if you don't have me followed on X, follow me on X for additional weather forecast updates at HWeather420. I definitely appreciate that. Otherwise, thank you for watching and listening to me ramble on about the hurricane season. I just wanted to let you know it is coming. The Atlantic hurricane season will be awakening very soon, folks, and we will be seeing hurricanes as we go later in toward this year with those water temperatures. Make sure to like the video down below if you like today's content. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their weekend out there.